Hi, everybody. My name is Natalie Yeadon. I'm the CEO and co-founder with Impetus Digital. If you're not familiar with Impetus, we offer numerous cutting-edge synchronous and asynchronous virtual collaboration tools and digital services for advisory boards, co-author working groups, medical education, internal meetings, and much more. But at Impetus, we really believe that all new great ideas start with a conversation. Our online collaboration platform is the perfect place for not just starting these conversations, but also for continuously building on the ideas and insights generated over time and creating authentic relationships and partnerships with participants in the process. And having these big, hairy, audacious conversations is how we can start to really implement change and positively disrupt healthcare. So with all of that said, the idea behind this webinar series is to start the conversation around some of these big or controversial ideas and to discuss the opportunities and issues that the healthcare industry is facing, along with how technology can help. So I'm really thrilled to have one of these digital provocateurs and thought leaders at the table with me today. This is actually Lydia Zeller. She's the CEO at Keeo, a digital therapeutic company. It's focused on changing the approach to musculoskeletal care. She's a champion for driving healthcare innovation. Lydia has been involved in almost every facet of Keeo's product and business development, and her passion for delivering impactful results has helped lead the charge for the company's pivot into the digital musculoskeletal therapeutic market. Lydia received her BA and an executive MBA specializing in strategic management from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If you'd like to get in touch with Lydia after the show, feel free to reach out to her via their website, Keeo.com, and that's spelled K-I-I, so double I-O.com. And her email is lzeller, Z-E-L-L-E-R, at Keeo.com. Welcome, Lydia. So happy to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Natalie. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. So what an interesting professional journey. You've done a lot of things. I'd love to know a little bit more about what you did before joining Keeo and really what you're doing at Keeo today.
Yes, certainly. So as you say, yes, I've had maybe a little bit of a non-traditional career trajectory, but always interesting and exciting. After graduating from college, I got my start at a small niche wealth management firm out in the San Francisco Bay Area. And that was my experience with really having the grit and tenacity to grow a business from nothing, from ground zero with my partner into a very successful business. I was the operations side of the business, so learned a lot about risk management and about how to make things possible, right? When there's a problem, look at all the risks, but then figure out the best path forward. I then took a number of years off while my kids were growing up from full-time employment and had my own business as a consultant in SEC regulation. So working again with that same wealth management firm and others, helping them really navigate SEC regulation. I got started at Kiio actually as a volunteer at the end of 2012, so early on in the company, was hired in 2013, and really had the privilege of working in almost all aspects of the business, with the exception of software development. So I'm definitely not a software engineer, but I started doing things like helping our then CEO with the cap table, wrote the first employee handbook, then started doing some grant development for the company, then moved into developing our content library. So that's all of the therapeutic exercises, educational materials, etc. By about 2016, I moved into product and product strategy. And at that point, we were developing hardware, software solutions for providers, primarily physical and occupational therapists. And fantastic technology, but unfortunately we were reducing top line revenue for our prospective clients by reducing the number of in-clinic visits needed, which is just a hard sell from a business model perspective. As we all know, aligning economic interests in healthcare is not a simple thing. So I was asked to take a look at our technology stack, at what we think is exciting in healthcare, new care delivery models, really look to skate where the puck is headed. And so I had the privilege of talking with a number of health insurance companies, as well as employers, really talking about what are your pain points in musculoskeletal. This is actually a payer's largest spend category. And so really, how could we take our technology stack, build off of it, and develop a product that aligns economic interests, that addresses this pain point and is able to deliver care at scale? And so that was the shift into digital therapeutics for Keeo. We launched our first product specific to back pain with our first health insurance company client at the beginning of 2017. As product in a young company, I also led our growth strategy at that point. So, acquired our first clients, managed those client relationships, added new clients, proved out the product both in clinical outcomes as well as financial impact with claims data analyses. And then in March of 2020, moved into my current role as CEO.
Beautiful. What a fantastic journey, and good for you, and congratulations. That's awesome. And what an interesting company. So you sort of answered the question, because a lot of times when you started thinking about the early pioneers in the whole digital therapeutic space, you've often seen the big grab for the big diseases, the big therapeutic areas, metabolic syndromes, the diabetes, all these things. One wouldn't intuitively think that musculoskeletal would be an issue. So tell us a little bit about the rundown about what is the importance of this area and what specifically Keeo does for these kinds of patients.
Yes, and it was a learning point for me as well. So musculoskeletal, as I said, is typically in the top 3 cost drivers for a payer. That's for a couple of reasons. One, because of the prevalence. So 50% of adults are going to have some type of musculoskeletal issue every year, and many of them will have more than one. Back pain alone, over the course of a single year, 30% of the population will have back pain. Over the course of their lifetime, 80%. So it's very prevalent. Secondly, it's costly partly because all too often evidence-based care pathways are not followed. So we have consumption of unnecessary or what are defined as wasteful medical services. So unnecessary MRIs, unnecessary surgeries, unnecessary spinal injections. There's also the impact on opioid use. So back pain is the #1 reason for opioid prescription, even though it's proven to be not effective for the vast majority of musculoskeletal issues. So that creates huge societal impact. It's not the cost of the opioid pills that's the problem, it's the downstream effects. When you then look at the indirect costs of musculoskeletal issues, those add to the problem as well. They actually exceed the direct medical costs. So if you're an employer, you're not only either paying your premiums, or as with most large employers, you're self-funding your medical costs yourself, so the direct medical costs, but you have the indirect costs of lost productivity, lost work days, workers' compensation, disability. Back pain is the leading cause of both disability and missed work days. So when you add all of that up together, it's a huge, huge, huge spend for both employers and health insurance companies, and for the nation, right?
Absolutely. So tell us about the business model. So you said, obviously, there's the advantages for the payers, and then there's also the advantages directly for the employers. How does Keeo position itself, and really, what is your business model?
Yes, we sell B2B to health insurance companies and large employers, and then our product is available to their members, so the members of the health insurance company or employees of the employer, as a fully covered benefit under their health plan. So we are actually providing cost savings specifically in decreased medical utilization and spend for the health plan, lower employment costs, so increased productivity, fewer missed work days, impacts on workers' comp and disability for the employer. And then for the member, this is a completely free covered benefit offered at first dollar coverage, even under a high deductible plan. You don't have to take time off work to make an appointment. This is available on demand 24/7. All you need is your smartphone, and you don't have any copays or deductibles. So it's really a win-win-win for all of the stakeholders.
So I'm a person, an employee working at company X, and I just joined, and I now have this new, benefits plan with health insurance, et cetera. How do I ever find out about Keeo?
That's the important thing, isn't it? Yes. And we learned early on that engagement begins with that first communication, at making people aware. So Keeo runs an omni-channel, multi-touch awareness campaign in the covered population. So you would get an email, possibly a direct mail from Keeo, letting you know that you have this benefit. You will get multiple of these throughout the year so that it's top of mind and you remember that you have this benefit when you have a flare-up of pain. And then we also integrate in with the communication channels of our clients. So your employer would include this in employee newsletters on your benefits platform. So you can just, if you're looking for resources, click and get right into Keeo from there.
So I'm now the employee. I did something to my back. I don't know. I'm moving a patient or whatever. I'm a nurse.
Yes.
And now I have lower back pain and I want to take you up on it. What exactly is the process for me as a nurse to get involved with the Keeo program?
Yes, so you click a link on a communication that you receive from us or on your benefits platform. You register for Keeo. We're checking that, you enter in your member ID number from your health plan. We check that you're a current member. And then you answer a short series of screening questions online. This takes about 5 minutes. We're really looking at, is Keeo medically appropriate for you? What subset of pain do you have within that joint, right? Not all back pain is the same. What are your baselines? So what's a baseline in pain, function, mental well-being, a little bit about you and your goals and how back pain has been impacting you so we can motivate you. And at the end of that screening, if you're one of the 80% of people completing our screening for whom Keeo is appropriate, you have immediate access to your personalized care program on the Keeo app. So you just download the app and begin engaging. If we determine that you have some type of comorbidity or potentially a more serious problem going on, we will give you a direct link at the end of screening to in-network resources specific to your health plan or employer. But again, most people are appropriate for Keeo, and then you're engaging via your smart device. So you can start, if your back flared up at 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning, you can be engaging in your care program 5 minutes later. That really, really is impactful, and it's one of the reasons we have such a significant decrease in urgent care and emergency use in our participants.
So my sense is that, is this more of a preventative as opposed to an acute management? How would you actually position Keeo?
Yes, so we're across the pain continuum. About 80% of our users have chronic pain. So they've had pain for more than 3 months and have not had relief. We have people with acute on chronic, and then we have people trying to use us more preventatively. Typically, they've had musculoskeletal pain in the past, but their main goal is to prevent flare-up. So about 60% of our users are using us specifically to reduce current pain, and about 40% to prevent flare-ups of future pain. We do treat high acuity, meaning people can come in with a baseline pain of 10. That's the highest pain possible. But if you just fell off a ladder yesterday, we will ask you to see your provider first. And again, if you have something more serious going on, like a neurological issue, we will refer you into your provider.
Interesting and fascinating and really great. So we want to talk about the various aspects of the services that the app provides. One of them is really around exercise therapy. So we're so used to, whenever we think about pain, the first thing that comes into our mind is the pill. There's some sort of a chemical entity that we pop into our mouth and everything goes away. And we realize that a lot of these things are available over the counter. You go into your pharmacy and you just pick it up. So this is a very different thing. So tell us a little bit about what the app does around exercise therapy.
Yeah, so if you look at the evidence and what is effective for musculoskeletal pain, it's exercise combined with education, and then the support to really enable you to take full advantage of that exercise and education. The saying motion is lotion is very, very true for musculoskeletal issues. So way back when, they would have told you to, lie in bed, rest, take pain medication. That's not at all what the evidence suggests or actually proves at this point. So targeted exercise is the most effective remedy for musculoskeletal pain. So in Keeo's app, we deliver exercises that are specific to your subset of pain. So again, not all knee pain is the same. We have multiple tracks depending on the specificity of your pain. And then we have a progressive series of exercises. So you're going to begin with gentle stretching, range of motion, move on at the appropriate time to add in some core strength building, move on to continue to build strength as well as build flexibility. So we're going to progress you through exercises specific to your subset of pain at a pace that is responsive to how you are responding to your program.
Right. Fantastic. So you mentioned the other thing around education. I'm assuming, is there various articles that get sent via emails or text messages? Do you have to log into the portal to get the education? How does one educate these members?
Yeah, so the educational curricula was written by Dr. Adrian Lau. He's the founder of the International Pain and Spine Institute. It's called Pain Neuroscience Education, which is kind of a fancy word. It's a very specialized form of cognitive behavioral therapy. And really what it does is help people understand how pain works in the body and rethink their attitudes towards pain, reimagine how they understand pain. And we deliver those up in the app. And it's contextual. So you're going to get a cadence of short reads, giving you tips and helpful information and really this deeper understanding of pain at a cadence that's in line with how you're engaging with the program.
You bring up something that's really important, and sometimes it's something I think that we overlook, and that is most humans have very subjective viewpoints about what pain and pleasure is. In some ways, some people can't differentiate between the two, or they're confused by them. How do we actually navigate a very controversial and provocative topic that is difficult really for people to ascertain?
Right. And the last thing, we are definitely not saying this pain is in your head, right? that's a terribly demotivating and frustrating thing for someone to hear. We're more educating them on the fact that if you have chronic pain, your nerves actually over time become extra sensitized. And so we're giving helping you understand that. In other words, by moving, you're not causing yourself further harm, right? You're actually on your way to healing. And then helping you, giving tips on how you can reset your nerves to experience pain differently, right? And calm down that sensitivity. So everything from, how stress can impact pain, right? People don't always understand that. And if you've had years and years and years of chronic pain, you can become so frustrated by the fact that the system hasn't worked for you that you can really kind of give up hope. And these materials are all about both educating people and empowering them.
You also have a really important area in the app around providing community support. So we all, a lot of us are familiar with communities online, Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media usage, and people are conversing. And if you're a gamer, all these sorts of things. So what makes the Keeo community unique, and how do we show that this kind of virtual support enables people to sort of get past and through their chronic pain?
Right. Great question. So we provide support two different ways. We provide it digitally. So 24/7, you're going to get, depending on what feedback we're getting from you in the app, you're going to get different messaging, you're going to get different content. Supporting you that way, giving you clear visibility into your goals and progress. actually the vast majority of our members engage solely digitally with us. But there are people who want one-on-one human contact. And for those folks, they're able to engage unlimited amounts with our human coaching team one-on-one, either in-app through secure in-app messaging, telephonically, whatever their preferred communication style is, and really get that one-on-one support. And our care team will also reach out proactively if somebody is not progressing as we would hope.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's a three-pronged sort of triangulated process, all focused around musculoskeletal and really getting people through, at least sustaining in some sort of sustainable way through their chronic pain, which is fantastic. So you did mention that this is, so now the question comes down to, you've got a series of asynchronous, which is the educational component and being able to go in through the exercise therapy and doing these things when it's convenient for somebody through their app. But you also have a synchronous component, which is if you wanted to do one-on-one with an actual coach. So you've kind of hit it from both areas. I was kind of curious as well with the app around what we call oftentimes machine learning, sort of getting smarter with your data. Is there inputs into your system that makes Keeo smarter for an individual patient?
Right. And of course, AI runs the full spectrum, right? From basically algorithms to full machine learning. And what we're doing at Keeo is, as you're engaging with Keeo, our profile on you is becoming much richer. And so we are able to contextualize the content that we're delivering to you, the messaging we're delivering to you, how we're progressing you through the program in a way that's very specific and personal to you. It's actually even more enhancements along those lines are on our roadmap, and are one of the things that I think is most exciting about the future of digital healthcare, the ability to use AI to hyper-personalize care to an individual and really drive engagement through that hyper-personalization. We do that certainly at Keeo. We'll pull in your goals, your motivators into the messaging we're giving you. We'll progress you at your own pace, et cetera. But even more is possible and is on our roadmap.
Where does a caregiver or a patient's physician or care team fit into the app? Is there administrator dashboards? How does information get shared? And is it federated? Is it, is it encrypted? How does that work?
So you've asked, I think, two different questions here. We do have a care manager dashboard, and that can be available, for example, to the care coordination team at a health plan client. This would all, yes, everything is encrypted. We have our high trust certification. Any kind of data sharing is done over BAA, and only when patient consent has been given with their health plan, et cetera. We do not tie directly into the physicians, but there are some prospective clients that we're talking with now, and the system supports that, the platform supports that. We can certainly provide information, again, with patient consent back through API to the physician.
Fantastic. So when we say this, we're talking about the possibility of eventually integrating patient-reported information and outcomes, either manually or what we call ambiently through biometrics, use of like sensors, keyboards, glucose monitors, there's a myriad of things, Fitbits and smartwatches and that sort of thing. Is that part of the eventual roadmap for Keeo as well?
So we are obviously collecting data from our members as they engage with us, recollecting pain information, functional information, et cetera. We are not currently using a sensor in this product, and that's intentional. Keeo has a clinically validated sensor. We began as a hardware company, but we really look at two things. One is the care we're delivering evidence-based, right? And then two, and just as importantly, the most member-centric or consumer-centric way possible of delivering that is where we want to be. So we get fantastic outcomes without including our sensor in the product, and that makes it more user-friendly for the members and more cost-effective and more immediate, right? You don't have to wait for a sensor to arrive in the mail.
We've talked about some excellent outcomes specifically for payers and for employers. But as we think about people like pharmaceutical companies, we have many that actually listen and follow our program. Is there an opportunity, especially as we start to think about the new world of clinical trials, decentralized trials, and the ability for people globally, much more inclusion, much more diversity of people involved? Is there an opportunity to tap into people to leverage their data for clinical trials, either prospectively or retrospectively? What's Keeo's stance on clinical trials?
Yeah, so Keeo has done studies with the majority of our health plan clients, looking at the impact of Keeo on medical utilization and spend. So we're looking at claims data to do that. We are not, enrolling people in a clinical trial or providing their information to any third parties. Privacy is really, really important to us. I mean, obviously, Keeo at its heart is a content delivery and data collection platform, right? So could we have a separate product, which is, again, with member consent, helping enable a trial? Absolutely. But our main focus is currently helping people and payers overcome the both physical, emotional, financial challenges of musculoskeletal pain.
Certainly, the advantage to the end user is that it's free. They are an employee of a company and they get this great tool that they don't have to pay for. But one thing that may cross some people's mind is concern of sharing sickness or unwellness to their employer and their insurance company. What narrative or context is provided to allay any of those concerns that somebody may lose their position or there would be some sort of a disadvantage for them in their employment?
No, that's a fantastic question, and we make that really, really clear in our screening process and in our terms of use. We never share your specific information with your employer. We share information in aggregate. So we will show across all of your employees what is happening in pain reduction, in functional improvement, in claims, but we will never, ever share your specific information with your employer. With your consent, when you consent into the program through a health plan, very similarly to how when you consent in by going to your provider, it will be provided, your information will be provided back to the health plan, but that works the same as it does when you go in and see your provider, and that is all done under BAA and with HIPAA protection.
Oh, fantastic. And, so I guess the other question for that is, people are involved in these programs, and I'm just curious as well, too, from the employer standpoint, as they see these issues, perhaps in an aggregate, has this influenced any company's development, modification of wellness programs? What are some of the positive things that you've seen at the employer level by them utilizing this aggregate patient data?
Yeah, so, I think for an employer, really what's important is looking at the data, seeing hard ROI, seeing, really measurable impact, both on clinical outcomes and then on claims, and then taking it a step further and really looking at how do you create a cohesive ecosystem of programs, across comorbidities, really have a unified member experience, right? And so, for example, bringing Kiio in together with behavioral health, right? There's so much overlap between behavioral health and musculoskeletal, and with only one, you're not addressing the full extent of the issue, right? Whereas with both, you are. And so Kiio has some interesting partnerships under development with behavioral health. And, again, looking at that full ecosystem so that you're really providing, taking care of the whole person for your employees.
That is so well said, because that was actually going to be my next question, because pain is so involved with mental health. We're hearing a lot about that. Obviously, COVID has a huge impact on that. And I'm also curious with that is what sorts of changes have you seen with the use of your app since COVID? So what did the world look like prior to COVID? And what did you see with the change in the demographics, the utilization since COVID?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was a watershed moment for digital therapeutics, very similarly to how it was for telehealth, right? So, there's no going back. So people will try a digital program first, maybe because of access to care issues during COVID, maybe because of safety concerns. And then they see how easy, how 24/7, how convenient, how personal this is, and then they're hooked. And so what we're really starting to see is a pull from the consumer as opposed to a push from the payer or from the system onto the consumer. So consumers are now demanding that level of convenience. And we saw it across demographics. One demographic that I would draw out is the elderly. We have a lot of experience with Medicare Advantage populations, and the more vulnerable, even in Medicaid, for example, and they really responded to this ability to have care in the safety of their homes, not having to, and for the Medicaid population, not having to take time off, et cetera. So really a positive response.
That's actually really encouraging to hear, Lydia, because you oftentimes associate with seniors, elder care, that they wouldn't be as apt to use technology. Did you see that as not necessarily being the case?
We see it as actually the opposite. So we get some of our best engagement in the elderly. We get, overall, we get our best engagement age about 35 and above, which is great because that's the population that's going to suffer from more musculoskeletal issues. And then we do get fantastic engagement from the very senior populations. We have users all the way up to age 99, I believe it is. And yes, we do find that we may get a few more calls into our member support line. How do I find the app in the App Store, or how do I adjust the volume on my iPhone? But then that's actually a great way to even increase engagement, because then our member support team member gets to hear about this individual's grandchildren and how the exercises are helping them get back to playing on the floor with the grandkids again, and it's just a bonding experience. So the 18-year-old male is significantly more challenging to engage than the 65-year-old female.
Right. Interesting. And so we're looking at these various opportunities, these various populations. It goes across the board, and every one of them has their different engagement rates and also their, what needs to be done or what their particular needs of the app are. So you're a pioneer in the digital therapeutic space. I'm curious as to what you have seen and learned over the last several years. Certainly lots of FDA changes and updates, including the ability to apply for a 510K. Just curious about what this has been like and what is the future that you see as it relates to your specific digital therapeutic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I will frame that kind of in things to keep an eye on, and then opportunities. And you mentioned one, right? The regulatory landscape is changing and will continue to change, and we really need to keep an eye out so that it protects consumers while not favoring entrenched interests or stifling innovation, right? So that's one thing to keep an eye on. Another thing to keep an eye on with any type of AI is that you're not building bias right into your algorithms, right? So that you're developing a product which is broadly accessible, broadly applicable to the full diversity of people. So those are a couple things that I would keep an eye on. I think that there is tremendous opportunity, again, in hyper-personalization, in really driving engagement by tapping into what motivates you, Natalie, to take action in your health, which may be different from what motivates me. And then finally, into a deeper integration across the healthcare ecosystem, because that has become somewhat fragmented, and digitals integrating with other digitals as well as with brick and mortar is important.
Huge. I can actually just see it. I mean, we could probably all have that concern eventually, is that one day you have a digital pharmacy with multiple different digital therapeutics or apps. Kind of, where do you start? Where do you end? Is there some sort of a way that all of this kind of amalgamates so the user experience is so much more simpler? What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. And the more streamlined, the more simple the user experience. I mean, that's what keeps people using something, right? I mean, you can create the most fantastic product in the world, but if nobody's using it, it's absolutely worthless.
Pharmaceutical companies, obviously, for decades and years, have dabbled in pain management and the development of medications in this space, sometimes extremely helpful, sometimes detrimental to the society. Obviously, we're all aware of the opioid crisis. For those people who are interested on important pain medication tools and drugs, what would pharmaceutical companies want to partner with a company like Keeo to, for example, use it as an app or some sort of a methodology or a partner piece, or, to be able to monitor the impact that their drug is having on pain? Can it be, instead of actually combining drugs, could they combine their drug with a digital therapeutic like yourself?
Yes. So, those are some conversations that we've had. And yes, I think there's great opportunity for pharmaceuticals to partner with digital companies in multiple ways, including using a digital together when appropriate with a pharmaceutical, and then also in having a suite of non-pharmaceutical interventions, which are very effective as well.
That's fantastic. And, at the end of the day, when you work with an employer or an insurance company, they're looking for metrics. They're looking for measurements. There's no reason why they're going to pay for a program like this where they're not going to see something moving the needle on. Tell us a little bit about some of the financial impact studies that you've done and some of the things that you've been able to decipher or to move the needle on, so they can say that there was benefit for them in being partnered with Keeo.
Yes, absolutely. So we define success as the members' pain improved, their function improved, they love their experience with Keeo, and on the financial side, they have reduced claims, right? Reduced utilization of unnecessary medical services. So we have now done 4 longitudinal claims database studies with health plan clients over multiple years, and we've seen very, very, very similar results in all studies, which is very validating. In our most recent and largest, this was with our client WA Trust, which insures about 110,000 lives, primarily municipal workers, school districts, et cetera. And what we found was really fantastic. So overall, Keeo participants had 62% combined medical and pharmacy, 62% lower combined medical and pharmacy costs specific to their musculoskeletal issue. And really that came from reductions in overutilized diagnostics and treatments. So we had 91% lower use of urgent care emergency, 68% lower use of radiology, 62% lower use of advanced imaging, 63% lower use of injections, 58% fewer surgeries. And then over on the pharmacy side, 89% lower use of opioids, 74% lower use of benzodiazepines. Actually, interestingly, a 51% lower use of antidepressants. There's that link between mental well-being and physical pain that we've spoken about. So really a win-win-win, right? A win for the member in getting better with fewer procedures, fewer out-of-pocket costs on their part, and a win for the payer in having a healthier population, more invested in their own care and lower costs.
So Lydia, when I hear those numbers, I mean, they're pretty significant. It would feel like it would be relatively a no-brainer for every company to want to do that, but they're not. So what is the barrier for people wanting for everybody to be including this as part of their benefits program?
Yeah, and more plans and employers are looking at adding digitals to their healthcare ecosystem, because they really realize that just what you said, it is a no-brainer. It's not a nice to have, it's a necessity for competitive advantage, right? Our workforce is our productivity. It is our competitive advantage, and having people healthier at lower cost and being more productive, that is a necessity. So, again, times have shifted. We've seen now that start to be a pull for consumers, and really a pull from the payer system, be it an employer, be it a health plan as well.
Love what you're doing at Kiio. This is fantastic. And I think we're just going to wrap it up there. Great assortment of tools, ideas. The plan is fantastic. For anybody listening to this, if you are interested in learning more or even inquiring further or seeing if there's ways to partner with Keeo, we will be leaving Lydia's information. Again, she can be reached at lzeller@keeo.com, and their website is keeo.com. That's spelled KIIO.com. We want to thank everybody for their time. We also, if you were interested in this show, we'd love you to check out impetusdigital.com. These are the kinds of things that we do in our platform. We work with payers, patients, physicians, allied healthcare providers. We work together in asynchronous and synchronous ways using assortment of tools, and we bundle it with our white glove service. So we help you to move the agenda forward on these kinds of topics. How are you going to implement something new as part of your healthcare ecosystem? Interesting new legislation or compliance, or thinking beyond the pill. There's all kinds of things that we do in the Impetus Insight platform. So we encourage you to check that out. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We would also appreciate if you could leave us some feedback on iTunes. Thank you all for your time, and we wish you a wonderful day. And thank you, Lydia, for a fantastic conversation.